will try to be as concise as possible. I think, if in a nutshell, what I would say is we are all molded, of course, by our early experiences and our journey through life. I think, particularly for me, growing up in Stoke-on-Trent in the 80s and 90s, um, in a Black family, a Black British family, diversity was very few and far between. So my journey through primary school, secondary school, and even sixth form, I very much did at times feel quite isolated, and there wasn't a lot of representation around in my teachers, lecturers, etc. But I never accepted that. For me, it wasn't something to accept. The impetus for me was to see change and to be changed. I never really went in for the status quo. So I've ruffled feathers, but I think sometimes that's necessary in leadership. I was always pushed forward to leadership, even going back to my teen years when it came to be student rep or whatever, or the union rep at uni for the year group or whatever. I was always pushed forward, and I happily took it on. But I don't believe, I think maybe the perception of a leader, I don't feel that myself. I feel part of a team. Whenever I am the, in quote, leader, I just do see myself as part of a team. And I mean, I am happy to make the tough decisions, but I think it's also been really important for me, as the previous speakers have said, to listen and collaborate. And I always say that we are made great by others. That is the truth. When we listen to others, when we take on the opinions of others genuinely, it only enhances us and our skills. I think it's that genuine curiosity as well. So we've kind of spoke a lot today about, working as a team and asking questions. But I think you do need to have a genuine curiosity. Don't let it just be kind of a tick box exercise. Are you interested in the people that you're working in? What is their story? What is their vision? How does their vision align with yours as leader? And you really do get the best out of the team that you're working with when people do feel heard. I think the willingness to shoulder responsibility is made much easier when you can genuinely and authentically say to yourself, yes, I have listened to my team. Yes, I've taken on everyone's opinion. And the final decision, though it has been made by me, it is a collective decision. I think where leadership can sometimes go a little bit south is when we do commission ourselves as sort of the only voice in the room. And it says a fine balance. It sounds very, it sounds a little bit hypocritical, or I don't know if that's the right word. It doesn't sound quite right when I say that, because of course you are the final, you won't have to make the final decision of leader. You are going to have to burden the largest responsibility of things. But within that, if you are not listening to others, when you make that decision, your team will just lose belief in you completely. And I think there's a way of getting the best out of your team and getting them to trust you by having very open conversations. And that the transparency of when, your decision ultimately may have a negative outcome, go back to your team and be like, yeah, that wasn't quite right there. Let's regroup and ask for quite honest feedback. But obviously, all of this, what I'm talking about now, that can only be developed by good relationships within your team. As a leader, the most important thing, bar none, bar everything, is to form healthy, safe, amiable working relationships with the people that you work with. I think having a bit of a nurturing side to that is quite good. And as Black women, I think that's one of our real strengths. We are nurturers. We absolutely are. And that isn't, a negative thing. I don't believe that sensitivity and understanding and empathy are necessarily something that you should suppress in a leadership role. I think that's something that you should really try to enhance. And through nurturing and through that care, I think people do respond to that. People will know if you genuinely care about them, if you care about their opinion. And I think it makes people more open, more honest. And it just leads to all round better working relationships. And I think also sustainable working relationships. So, as I say, like leadership, it's probably quite different to what people imagine it to be. And from my experience, anyway, people tell me all the time, you're a leader, Sarah, you're a leader, that is you. But I honestly feel like for me, leadership is getting things done, getting the best outcomes, getting everyone involved, getting stuck in. And very much of what Oliemi was saying, it is service, but I actually feel like that service is an honor and a privilege. It's a real privilege to be trusted by others, for others to believe in you as a leader and to put you in that position and to, you know, want you to steer the ship, so to speak. And yeah, the responsibility of that, it's though it may be large, it may be heavy, and I think we definitely need to obviously remember that self-care element of that being leaders also, and making sure that we are not pouring from an empty cup, so to speak. But I do think it's an honor, and I think it's really nice when people believe in you. And I think especially from the diaspora, there is an element of displacement for Black people within British society. And there's an element of sometimes feeling like an imposter, sometimes feeling that you have to earn your place more. There's a lot of things historically within our people of, feeling that our value only lies in our labour. And that's one of the things with the self work that I have to keep trying to unlearn within myself, that we're not only good for labour, I am not only good for labour. And it's something that I try to pass on to my team also.
That is great. Honestly, like me here, what I'm thinking is, I'm so glad to see that it's women that are speaking to me, and Black women at that are speaking to me about their journeys. The questions I do have, I'll ask you one, and that's what you just actually mentioned. How do you deal with imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't belong there? And then I'm going to ask Gabriella something you also mentioned, Sarah, about how to deal with burnout as a leader when you're not necessarily in a position to step down. So let's go first to Sarah, and then we'll move on to Gabrielle.
Okay, so imposter syndrome. Probably it's different things to everyone. I think I can be quite methodical in my thinking. So sometimes what helps me is to sort of like physically make lists of my achievements, look back over the last 12 months where I am as to where I was then, 6 months, and kind of look at my journey of progress, look at my journey of things that I have done that I wouldn't have done before, things that I'm comfortable to do now, things that I'm more comfortable to address that I may not have been. So I think that's really, it is a lot of self-work to get rid of imposter syndrome, because you can hear from other people how good you are, what a good job you're doing, but until you really kind of internalize that yourself, I think you will struggle with imposter syndrome. But I think it's also, that's why representation is so important. The more we see people like ourselves at the table, sitting there, being involved, having a voice, the more we understand that we are just as deserving to be there also. And also, take your flowers when they are given to you, take them and water them. It's okay to congratulate yourself and be proud of a job well done. You do not have to sort of bask in this modesty and humility. You can really think to yourself, hey, that was a good job. I'm really proud of what I did. And when we really kind of internalize this monologue of I am worthy, I am deserving, I am able, that's when we really can remove imposter syndrome. My why is because I am a mother of four beautiful children, and I want to set a good example. I want them to walk through this world brave and beautiful and proud. And I want to model a life for them that sees their mother as a Black woman as outside of what the negativity that's conditioned in them by society, by the mainstream media. I don't do it because of respectability politics. I don't go into that. I don't believe, oh, I must be better, to prove something to the world outside. I want to be better for those who come after me. I want to be a leader for those who come after me. And also I want there to come a time when I can rest. So I lead from the front now, so that one day I can be at the back and I can be resting and others will lead. So it's definitely representation, setting an example, but also I do have a genuine love of community, a love of people. I want to see people win. I want to see people be the best that they can. And I want to be made better, and I want to continually examine myself to be better. So it's quite it's a very internal journey, leadership is for me, and I'm learning more about myself the more leading that I do. And as to how people can find their why, I really can't say that. That is honestly, everyone has to answer that for themselves. And also your why, other people don't have to know. You don't have to share that. Um, yeah, so that's it really.
Fantastic. And as we round up, just a 1 minute takeaway that you want us to know, a 1 minute summary about leadership, about anything.
I think going around this room today and hearing all the amazing speakers, it's just, it's overwhelming, but it's beautiful. It's so good to see. Um, and what I would want people to know about leadership is it isn't about being in charge. I think it's about that self-work, that journey of self-development, but it's also about your relationships with others. So if you want to be a good leader, first and foremost, focus on how you work with people, not how people work for you. And yeah, just always keep an open mind and understand it is a lifelong process. There is actually no end goal to this. It's just continual development. And believe in yourself, believe in your abilities, but be open to criticism and be open to feedback. And just encourage others. I think a good leader encourages others. A good leader is not just about themselves and their own strengths. Being in the background, there's sometimes a lot of learning to be had there, to just observe and allow others to come forward. So yeah, I would say that's it in a nutshell today.